Welcome to the Thea Lee Podcast. Today is February 6th, 2026, and we are on day 37 of reading through the Bible. So now the whole community of Israel sets out from Elim and they journey into the wilderness of Sin. They're in between Elim and Mount Sinai, and they arrive literally 1 month from the time they left Egypt. And the whole community of Israel goes and starts complaining to Moses and Aaron again. And they are so dramatic about it. They say, if only God had killed us in Egypt. When we were in Egypt, we sat around with pots filled with meat, and we ate all the bread that we wanted. But now you've brought us into the wilderness to starve to death. Well, of course, the Lord hears this and tells Moses that he's going to rain down food from heaven for them, and each day the people will pick up as much food as they need. And he's doing this on purpose to see if the people can follow his instructions. On the 6th day they will gather food, and when they prepare it there will be twice as much as the other days. So Moses and Aaron gather the people together, and they say, by tonight you're going to understand that it was the Lord that brought you out of Egypt. In the morning you're going to see the glory of the Lord. He has heard your complaints. When you're complaining against God, not against us. We've done nothing to deserve this. But the Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening, and bread to satisfy you in the morning, because he has heard your complaints about him. Then Moses said to Aaron, announce this to the entire community of Israel. Present yourselves before the Lord, for he has heard your complaining. And as Aaron spoke, the whole community of Israel looked towards the wilderness, and they could see the awesome glory of the Lord in the cloud. Then the Lord says to Moses, I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them that in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all of the bread you want. So God gives them exactly what they were saying they had so much of in Egypt while they were slaves. And God says, then you will know that I am the Lord your God. So that evening, vast numbers of quail flew in and covered the camp. So they had all of this quail to eat. And then the next morning, they woke up. Everything around the camp was wet with dew. But when the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as frost blanketed the ground. They didn't know what it was. And then Moses told them that this was the food the Lord had given them to eat. That each household should gather as much as it needs. Pick up 2 quarts for each person in your tent. So the people of Israel did as they were told. But some gathered a lot and some gathered a little. But when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. Those who gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had just enough. Each family had just what they needed. Then Moses told them to not keep any of it until morning. But of course, some of them didn't listen, and they kept some until morning. In the morning, it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell, and Moses was really angry with them. After this, the people gathered food morning by morning, each family according to its need. And then, as the sun got hot, the flakes would just evaporate and disappear. But on the 6th day, when they gathered twice as much as usual, so it was 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. And then the leaders of the community came and asked Moses why this was, and he explained that this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow, the 7th day, is going to be a day of complete rest, the holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set it aside, and what is left is for tomorrow. So they put aside that food until morning, just as Moses had said, and then in the morning it was wholesome and good. There was no maggots or odor. So Moses said, eat this food today, for today is a Sabbath day dedicated to the Lord. No food will be picked up today. But of course, some people went out and tried to gather on the 7th day, but they found no food. And the Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th day, so that there will be enough for 2 days. On the Sabbath day, you must each stay in your own place, and do not go out and pick up food for the 7th day. So they didn't gather food any longer on the 7th day. The Israelites called the food manna. It was white like coriander seed, and it tasted like honey wafers. Then the Lord told Moses to fill a 2-quart jar of the manna to preserve it for your descendants, and then later generations will be able to see the food that I gave you in the wilderness when I set you free from Egypt. And it says that they did this, and even later Aaron put it in the place of the Ark of the Covenant in front of the stone tablets so that the people in the future generations would be able to see the manna. The people of Israel ate manna for 40 years while they were in the wilderness. They ate manna until they came to the border of Canaan, and the container used to measure the manna was called an omer, which is 1/10 of an ephah, which held about 2 quarts. So at the Lord's command, the whole community left the wilderness of Sin and began to move from place to place. And eventually they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there for people to drink. So then, of course, they come to Moses and start complaining again to give us water. And Moses said, "Why are you complaining to me? And why are you testing the Lord?" But they were tormented by thirst. And of course they say again, "You brought us out of Egypt. Why? Why are you trying to kill us, our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cries out to God and says, "Please, Lord, help me. These people are ready to stone me." And so the Lord said, "Okay, walk out in front of the people and take your staff, the one that you used when you struck the water of the Nile. Call some of the elders of Israel to go with you and stand in front of Mount Sinai. Strike the rock and the water will come gushing out, and then the people will be able to drink." So Moses did that, and the water gushed out as the elders looked on. And he named that place Massa, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord here with us or not?" While they were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. And so Moses told Joshua to get some men and go out and fight the army of Amalek for them. And he said, "Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill, holding the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses commanded, and he fought the army of Amalek. And Moses held the staff up in his hand. And every time he had the staff held up, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained advantage. Moses' arms became tired, though, because they were fighting all day long. And so pretty soon, Aaron and Hur, who had gone with him, sat Moses down on a rock, and they held his arms up with him. And Moses sat there and held that staff up until sunset. And as a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. After this victory, the Lord instructed Moses to write this down on a scroll as a permanent reminder and read it aloud to Joshua. "I will erase the memory of Amalek from under the heaven." So Moses built an altar there and named it Yahweh Nisi, which means "the Lord is my banner." And he said, "They have raised their fists against the Lord's throne, so now the Lord will be at war with Amalek generation after generation." So then Moses' father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything that God had done for Moses when he was in Egypt, and he heard especially how God had rescued them from Egypt. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his 2 sons back to live with Jethro. And so Jethro comes to visit Moses in the wilderness, and he brought Moses' wife and 2 sons with him. Jethro sent forward a message saying, "I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and your sons." So Moses goes out to meet him, and he bows low and kisses him, and they check on how each other are doing. And then Jethro comes to Moses' tent, and he goes ahead and tells his father everything that the Lord had done to the Pharaoh in Egypt on behalf of Israel, and how all the hardships that they had experienced. But he was delighted when he heard about all the good things that God had done for Israel, and he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro says, "Praise the Lord, for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from the Pharaoh, and he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt." And he says, "I know that the Lord is greater than all the other gods, because he has rescued his people from oppression of the proud Egyptians." So then Jethro brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God, and then Aaron and all the elders of Israel had a sacrificial meal in God's presence with him. And then the next day, Moses goes to sit down and hear all of the people's disputes against each other. And the people waited before him from morning until night. And Jethro's watching all of this, and he's wondering what Moses is trying to accomplish and why is he doing all of this. And Moses says that the people expect him to bring them the ruling from God and to tell them about God's decrees and give them instructions. But Jethro says, "You are going to wear yourself out. You cannot do all of this." And if you remember, there were 600,000 men, let alone the women and children, that followed with them out of Egypt. So Jethro gives him some advice, and Moses ends up following his advice. So he chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,000, 100, 50, and 10. So then these men were able to solve the people's common disputes, and then they only brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of all the smaller matters. So then after this, Moses' father-in-law goes home. So now, exactly 2 months after the Israelites left Egypt, they arrive in the wilderness of Sinai, and they come and camp at the base of Mount Sinai. Then Moses climbed up the mountain to talk to God, and God called to him from the mountain and said, "Give these instructions to the family of Jacob and announce to the descendants of Israel that you've seen what I did in Egypt to the Egyptians. You know how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you out myself. Now, if you obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples of the earth, for all the earth belongs to me, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation." So, this is the message that Moses gave the people. He returned from the mountain and called together everyone and explained what God had said. And the people said, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded." So Moses went back up to take the answer to the Lord. Then the Lord said, "I will come down in a thick cloud. I will come to you, Moses, so the people themselves can hear me when I speak with you. Then they will always trust you." So Moses told the Lord what the people had said. The Lord said to go down and prepare the people for his arrival. Consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothing. Make sure they're ready on the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai, and all the people will watch. Mark off a boundary all around the mountain. Warn the people to be careful and not to go up the mountain or even touch the boundary. Anyone who touches the boundary will certainly be put to death. No hand may touch the person or animal that crosses that boundary. Instead, stone them or shoot them with arrows. They must be put to death. However, when the ram's horn sounds a long blast, then the people may go up on the mountain. So Moses went to the people and he consecrated them for worship, and they washed their clothes, and he told them, "Get ready for the third day, and until then, please abstain from having intimate relations." Then on the morning of the third day, thunder roared and lightning flashed, and a dense cloud came on the mountain. There was a long, loud blast from a ram's horn, and all the people trembled. Moses led them out from the camp to meet with God, and they stood on the foot of the mountain. All of Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord had descended on it in the form of fire. The smoke billowed to the sky like smoke from a brick kiln, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the blast of the ram's horn grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God thundered his reply. The Lord came down to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses climbed the mountain. Then the Lord told Moses, "Go back down and warn the people not to break through the boundary to see the Lord, or they will die. Even the priests who regularly come near the Lord. They must purify themselves so that the Lord does not break out and destroy them." "But Lord," Moses protested, "the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai. You already warned us. You told me to mark off the boundary all around the mountain and set it apart as holy." But the Lord said, "Go down and bring Aaron back up with you. And in the meantime, do not let the priests or the people break through the approach to the Lord, or he will break out and destroy them." So Moses went down and told the people what the Lord had said. The main thing that I am noticing today with this story is that the Lord seems to be treating Israel like you would treat children. They're hungry in the wilderness, and he provides their food. He actually provides them with the exact food that they say they miss from Egypt. But he has to give very specific instructions, and he's doing this to test them, to try and teach them that it is important that they actually follow all of the steps that he lays out. And of course, they really struggle with this, and it takes a while for everybody to understand that. But he's still patient, and he's still showing up. He's still protecting them, and he's still interacting with them. Thanks for listening. We will talk again tomorrow.